Hi guys, it's Steph from IDRIVEACLASSIC, and today I'm back and I'm in something a little bit special. I'm in a 1960 Morrie Minor convertible. Now I've borrowed this off my friend Colin, who's going to appear on the video today and talk to us a little bit about what he's updated and stuff. And this car's amazing because it's been all over Europe, so I'm going to take it out for a test drive today and show you what it's like to drive a convertible instead of a saloon.
Well, I didn't actually really want a Morrie Minor to start with. My dad referred to them as Morrie Thous, and when the subject of me starting driving came up at home, he suggested that a Morrie Thou would be the best car. So we trundled off to see this rotten old car in a friend of a friend's front garden, and I point blank refused to be seen in it. But he kind of was quite insistent that I bought it, so pretty much I was told that it was that car or no car. So anyway, long story short, the following week we came back and collected it and spent 6 months restoring it with him, and that was a two-door saloon, a late 60s two-door saloon, and that was my everyday car for 15 years. Okay, so Delilah, as she's aptly known, was my second car. When I started looking around for convertibles, they were really expensive, and a lot of them, although they were in not great condition, were still quite expensive for what they were. So I set about looking for a project car, and when I found this, she had been off of the road since 1976, and it was a complete wreck basically. There were holes in the floor, quite major welding work was needed. Luckily my dad was very good at that, so he assisted me with it, and over a 2-year period we set around kind of restoring her to what you see today.
I have actually known Colin for an awful long time. In fact, much to his horror, the best part of 10 years. And I remember when he first told me that, well, the first time I met him, he had Delilah actually. And he said, I built this with my dad, and we did the NEC a number of years ago now. And Colin actually brought this photo album at the time, and it actually details every single last thing that he did when he built the car with his dad. And honestly, it looked terrible in photos. And I know there's a lot of people that watch these videos at home and they think these cars that you're trying out are amazing, or they look incredible. And I hope as Colin shows us some of his photos, and because he's old school and these photos were taken a million years ago, they were all taken on a normal camera, so we can't give you a bit more of a sophisticated slideshow, but I hope that it gives some of you some perspective that if you are working or struggling with the project yourself, that they are doable and you can get it done. I mean, honestly, the pictures here that you see of Delilah, it doesn't even look like the same car, and it's a real testament actually now to how talented Colin is with these cars, and with pretty much every car actually, and on occasion my own, as to everything he learned on this car and the skills that he's been able to apply later on. And whilst his dad isn't here now, and it's still a really nice, it's a nice memory to say, this is something I did with my dad. And yeah, I think this car is really special. I want to show you the rest of her now so you can see her.
Okay, so originally when the car was made, it would have just had semaphore indicators, which are these things just at the side here, which are fine, except if you drive in London, which is where I used to drive the car quite a bit. So what I did was retrofitted some later indicators, so they actually work off of the stalk. So as you can see, front and back. At the front, I repurposed the front side lights so that the car kind of looks original from its outside, but has that kind of function. Pretty much the interior is as it was. It's got the addition of some window washers. They wouldn't have been fitted from standard, and there's a stereo hidden away in the glove box there. It's a little bit retro now, there's a tape player on there, and the speakers are hidden underneath the seats. So what I wanted was the appearance of originality in here. Delilah has the mechanics of a later car, so her gearbox and the engine are from the 1100. She would have only had a 950 when she was built originally, and it has the larger 8-inch front drums. Mostly that is because I do quite a lot of motorway journey, and we do tow a small caravan, so that helps with all of that. But she's modified using all Morrie Minor parts. She's been abroad quite extensively. About 3 years ago we purchased a small Ariba Puck caravan with the view of exploring first of all the south of France. So we went down to the Ardèche and then the south coast to Cannes and Monaco. She's been up through Italy and Switzerland, and then this week we've been through Belgium and Luxembourg into Germany. Okay, so under the bonnet things are reasonably standard. So she has a later 1100 or 1098 engine and a 1098 gearbox. She has the standard dynamo rather than an alternator that some owners choose to fit. That's mainly because I use her during the summer, so we don't have to worry about charging batteries up and things like that because of lights and heaters and things. In here I've gone for functionality, so Delilah does quite a few miles each year, so everything in here is quite functional. I've not prepared her to be winning any shows or anything, so what you see here is what we use pretty much on a daily basis.
Before we take Delilah on a drive, I thought I'd show you what she looked like. And if you've seen a Morrie Minor before, you may have seen a saloon. Now, one of the first things you'll notice is that it's the standard are the little stickers on the lights. And that's because we are filming this video abroad. Well, part of this video, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. So we're currently on holiday in Belgium, and Colin has brought Delilah because, well, I think we expected better weather than this because the weather has been incredibly turbulent. But as we have a look around, you'll see that this car is in very good condition. It's been very well looked after, and just in the door here you'll notice there are what sometimes people call pop-up indicators. They're actually called semaphores. So before you had your standard indicators as you have in your cars now, you had your semaphores, and they would pop out the body of the car, and on the four doors are in a different position actually. They're up by the windows, and to be honest that's my preferred position, and that's where mine are actually. But they're actually quite good, and what Colin's done is he has retrofitted some indicators which are just below the bumper there, and you'll see them just by the overrider, and that's obviously for modern car drivers that don't really get what's going on. You've got an old GB badge on there which is a legal requirement for travelling abroad. You've got your back lights. Again, you'll notice everything on these earlier cars, so you'll notice this looks very different to Mary and to Martha as well, and that's because they're later cars. Whereas at this point in the game they were still running on, you know, your semaphores and your normal backlights and stuff. And here's some stickers of all the places that Colin's been. So as you can see, this is a very well travelled car, and a very nice car actually, and I'm very much looking forward to taking it out because Colin has never let me drive one of his Morrie Minors before, probably because he didn't trust me, because in my younger days I was quite a wild driver, and you wouldn't have let me behind the wheel of something like this. So we've had a look around the outside of Delilah, so why don't we hop inside and I can show you some of the differences between this and Mary. Now let's open the door to Delilah and see what she looks like inside. So you've probably noticed she looks very different to Martha and Mary, and that's because she's a slightly older car. So although the Morrie Minor may look roughly the same from the outside, there were changes going on elsewhere. Now, I mean, you'll notice there's two glove boxes, for example. My 1960 car has this glove box here, but I actually took the lid off because it just really stressed me out and I couldn't get all the stuff inside. The steering wheel's different, the dash layout's different. I mean, one of the big differences there is that on the later cars you've got that chrome surround. You've probably just spotted the little twirly ashtray there, and there's the heater, and I'll be honest with you, they're not as good as the later heaters. They are a bit puny in comparison. Now as we come round, you'll notice that this car feels, in my opinion anyway, this car feels very quality. There's a couple of little modern touches there, like these seat belts. In the Morrie Minors you would have had your Kangol seat belts, and I believe for the year of this car you wouldn't have had seat belts at all, because I don't have them in B. Carpets are all really nice, but I mean, look, the rest of the car's really nice. You've got armrests in the back of there as well, and it's those little classy, elegant touches that make this quite a special car. And again, your interior is all beautifully laid out. And also this is where Colins got his modern indicators. Just got them on a little switch there. And yeah, that's the inside of Delilah. Now, you might remember from my last video that I was talking about starting the car, and I talked you through all the different bits on the speedo and on the dash as well. Now, because this is a slightly earlier car, it's a little bit different to when we looked at Mary and when we looked at Martha, and it's a little bit more like my 1960 car at home, except a lot nicer. So I'm going to talk you through the dash first of all. So where we started from before here, where we have the choke is actually over here, and that's because this is a pull start, and these are the wipers and these are the lights. So why don't we start the car now and you can hear how it sounds. Spoiler, it sounds a lot better than my car, so let's try it. So again, it's just usual, we turn on the key. Now we pull the choke out a little bit because it hasn't been driven in a few hours, so you need to pull that choke out. And then once you've pulled the choke out and once you've turned the key, you do the pull start because that gets it going. So let's start her up. Okay, so I've got a small confession to make. We made the first half of this video when we went to France, and because the weather was so bad, we didn't get to finish it off with any roof down driving. Now I wanted to show you what it looked like when we had the roof down and give you the true experience of a convertible. So I said to Colin, we'll pick back up when we come to the National Rally. So I'm finishing this video off today at the National Rally. As you can probably see, we're passing lots of tents and other Morrie Minors. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take her out on the road. I'm going to drive her for a bit. My hair already looks mental because I've been camping for a few days. So it's absolutely fine. If my hair gets ruined, it doesn't matter, because we are now going for a ride in a convertible and I cannot wait. Guys, we're coming off the campsite now, but honestly, the way this car is handling is incredible. So we were driving across bumpy fields and I couldn't feel it at all. Colin has put this car together with such precision. Honestly, I can't believe how lovely it is to drive, and everything feels like I guess it would have done when the car was new, and it's just so gorgeous. I mean, I have a car that's the same age, and if you've been following me on Instagram for quite a while, you'll remember that I had a car called B, who I still have. So hi, if the guy that sold me B is watching, I do still have her. You just haven't seen her for a while. Anyway, she's got quite a lot of rot on her, and I haven't driven her for a while. And she was a very, how can I put it politely? She was an example that had been driven every single day since new and hadn't been restored. And so this is a very different car, and you can really feel it. I mean, they might be the same car, they might be the same year, but they are totally worlds apart in how they drive. I mean, the gearbox in this is not original. So in an original car, you would have had your 948 engine and your 948 box. And sorry, just put it on. Anyway, you would have had your 948 engine and your 948 box. So in mine, I've got the 948 box still. So it's like double D clutch hell every time you take the car out, and it's good. They've got I believe that Colin has kept the original diff on, so it's got a better diff, and means you can get quicker off the lights basically, and it's good for getting up a hill. But it does hold you back somewhat in terms of speed. But I really feel like Colin has created a car here which is just incredible to drive. I mean, as we drive along, you can probably, well, I hope you can hear the engine, because it's so quiet but it's so smooth. It's like the mechanical equivalent of treacle. It's just, I haven't heard a single beat go wrong on this engine. It's incredible. The car, it just feels like such a privilege to drive, and I imagine that when Morrie Minors were new, they all felt like this, and they didn't feel like the battered heaps that I drive around on the regular. So this is the first time I've ever driven a convertible, and it's a really interesting experience, because I thought it was going to be actually a lot colder, because I've been in the back of this car before, no puns intended whatsoever, and it's very different in the front actually. It's you feel a lot more shielded, and I guess it must be the windscreen, which is kind of keeping a lot of the wind off, so I can feel a bit kind of in the back of my hair and blowing around here, but when you're sat in the back it can be absolutely freezing. But it's such a laugh, and I would say it's not just kind of car that looks classy, it's quite fun as well. I don't think the novelty, I mean, catch me again in winter and ask me this question, but I don't think the novelty of driving a convertible around would wear off, and I can see why Colin has made this his holiday car. And for those of you that are saying, what do you mean by holiday car? He drives it all the time anyway, but he takes it on all sorts of amazing European breaks, and he's been down to places as far as like Lake Como and Cannes in France. He's been to all sorts of places, and it's incredible really to think that a humble Morrie Minor just put together in a factory in Oxford all those years ago. And if you think, man didn't land on the moon till 1969, and yet we in Britain created cars that were so good and so lovable and so reliable as well, that they are still running today and can be used as daily cars. And I just, honestly, I know I always bang on about Morrie Minors, but I just think they're so incredible. I mean, how many cars today will be built and we can look back in, say, 50 years time and say it's still on the road? Personally, I just can't see it happening, because we just live in such a different society now, where things are throwaway and things aren't becoming so cost effective to fix, and just this car is just so perfect, and I wish we still made cars like this now. I couldn't drive a convertible on a regular basis because, number one, I live in the north of England and it is pretty much cold all the time, and number two, look, my hair is going everywhere. I'd have to be like one of those rich Italian women you see in sports cars that are driving them with nice pairs of sunglasses on, and those beautiful silk headscarves that you see made by lovely designers. It wouldn't be like I wear at home a plastic rain hat and a pair of glasses. This car feels very glamorous, and that's quite nice as well, because I think people tend to look at Morrie Minors as a bit of a fuddy-duddy old people car. And I remember when I bought mine, I mean, opinions are starting to change, but I know when I bought mine everyone was like, oh, it's not very cool, is it? Whereas I think this is quite cool. It's a lovely car to drive, and I really like the colour as well. So I'm sure you've already seen, but it's Old English white. Oh, sorry, we're losing the camera there. We're going around some really scary bends on country lanes and stuff, so I'm making poor Colin keep the camera on me. The things he does though. Anyway, the colour on this is beautiful as well. I love the Old English white, and I think that nowadays we live in a world where cars all seem to be the same colour, and I feel that old car colours are just a little bit special. And even though you still see a lot of white cars, and you see these new Fiat 500s in, you know, I've seen some of them actually in a very similar kind of creamy colour to this, I just feel like this is just some real old age glamour, and it's just so nice to drive. I'm quite envious actually. Although, I mean, how often can you use a convertible living in the north? Probably about 3 days a year, and I'm also always cold. But aside from that, it's just incredible, and I'm really, really enjoying it. If you're anything like me and you love Morrie Minors, but you know, maybe you're one of these people that hasn't taken the plunge yet, or you're still on the cusp of stepping over into Morrie Minor ownership, I hope this video, along with my other Morrie Minor videos, if you haven't seen them, you can check them out, really do convince you to go out and buy your first Morrie Minor, because these cars are absolutely incredible, and I could honestly bore on for the rest of my life about how brilliant these cars are, but until you've been behind the wheel of one, or even in the passenger seat as a great compromise, you won't fully understand just how brilliant they are. And don't take my word for it, everybody at the time used to use Morrie Minors, from the police through to midwives, you know, through to British Telecom, through to the post office. Everybody used Morrie Minor vans, and Morrie Minors in general. And there's a reason for that. It's because they are just so enjoyable to drive. They're comfortable, they're reliable, they're great, they're very ahead of their time actually. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you know, I get in cars that may be made in the 70s and 80s, and they don't feel quite as robust as Morrie Minors. And you know, the parts availability is still great as well, and I go on about this in every Morrie Minor video I do. The parts availability is great, the Morrie Minor owner club is great, there are forums with over 10,000 members on Facebook, people that you can talk to and say, hey, what's up with this, what do I need to do with that? So if nothing else, I hope you've enjoyed this video for the fact that I've been out in a convertible and had a jolly good time. And if you are considering Morrie Minor ownership, I hope I have convinced you, because there is a reason that this car was the first car to sell 1 million units in the UK and beyond. And it's not just a UK favourite either, it's a global favourite. And I feel almost like I'm advertising the car to you here, but if nothing else, I do hope that I'm somehow convincing some people out there to either buy a Morrie Minor or to use theirs a little bit more, because these cars are just incredible. And as the awful tattoo on my side says that I got at uni, there really is no drive finer than a Morrie Minor. So that's my ride in a Morrie Minor convertible over and done with. And I'm really sad to hand back the keys, because honestly, I've had the best time, even if my hair now does look like this. But it's okay, because it's been so much fun. It's the end of an amazing camping weekend for us, and if I go home looking a bit bedraggled, what does it matter? Anyway, if you've enjoyed this car as much as I've enjoyed making this video in 2 different countries, no less, then don't forget to hit like. Any comments you've got about Morrie Minors or the channel at all, leave in the comments section below, and don't forget to hit subscribe, because new videos go up every Wednesday and every Sunday. Now until next time, take care and drive safely.